never used a computer 10% of the time, so we're good now.
I think we're live, Damon. How are you, man?
Muted.
Are you muted?
Yes, I am, but I'm great and ready to go.
Yeah, boy, it's our first time, man. It's our first rodeo here. So, hey,
Yeah.
Happy Monday, everybody. Man, what a magnificent weekend. What a magical weekend it was, right, Samir? How about that? Huh? Did you like what I did
awesome.
there? All right, what a wonderful weekend, and we are just super fired up to start off our week. So, Damon, you ready? Did you get a good night's sleep last night?
I did, and I'm ready to go.
Ready to rock and roll? All right, let's do this. So, let's start off. We've got a repeat offender on the show today. She's been on multiple times. My dear friend, Gina Tabasso. Gina, how are you?
Hi, Curt. It's good to be back. It's been a while, and I brought two friends with me.
You did. You know what? And you're kind of a show off because Damon and I don't have any friends, so it's nice that you have at least two. And so you brought your friends here. So let's go to Cam. Cam, happy Monday. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Happy Monday to you. Is this where I should tell a little bit about things and make up some stories so people are impressed that I'm on the show?
You don't have to. Just a couple bad dad jokes. But you know what? I've got a question for you, Cam. In 1 second, let's introduce Samir. Samir Black's in the house. Samir, how are you, dude?
Dude, I am fantastic. Happy to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh my goodness, great. So thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. We're gonna have a great time, but I know how busy you guys are saving all sorts of companies, cyber criminals, all these fun things. We've got a ton to get into. Cam, here's my first question. Now, Samir, Gina, I think I've asked you this before. Cam, I'm hitting you with a question. Samir, I'm going to ask you a totally, completely different question, just kind of throw you off a little bit. But Cam, we're just sharing a little bit about family before we went live. And a question I have for you to kick off our program today. When you were a little guy growing up, who was your hero? Who did you look up to? Who just showered you with unconditional love? Who was your hero?
I mean, I love John F. Kennedy. That was probably my hero, but a guy that I actually really admire is a gentleman who I don't actually know his first name, Mr. Adams. When I was in first grade kindergarten era, I went to a birthday party, and during that birthday party, a gentleman showed me a computer that he had built. And this, by the way, this is back in the 70s. So when I say built, we're talking soldering irons and things like that. And he let me play with it by myself for about 20 minutes. And I came up, I was hungry, and I asked the mom at this birthday party, and I said, hey, what's for dinner? And she said, pancakes. And I said, that's an interesting dinner. And she says, it's not dinner time. It's 8:30 in the morning. So I pulled my first all-nighter at, literally at 4 years old. And this gentleman let me play with a computer that was many thousands of dollars and many, probably hundreds of hours of work for him to assemble it and put it together. And I've always remembered a quote that somebody told me later on, which is, it's attributed to Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain, who has a billion quotes that he may or may not have said, but it's a good one. But it says, the two most important days in a man's life are the day he's born and the day he finds out why. And so I knew at age 4 that I was going to work with computers. And computers then, by the way, and my parents were very supportive of it and everything, but that was more like a forest ranger. That was not a career. That was not, this was like a fringe thing that people did. It was a hobby, not a career. So I would say Mr. Adams for letting a 4-year-old play with an extremely expensive toy.
Man, Gina, you don't monkey around when you bring your friends on. You've got friends with muscle. Holy cow, man! What a great story! And to pull out the Mark Twain quote, right? To find out the day why, man. Cam, thank you for sharing that. So guys, connect with Gina, connect with Cam, connect with Samir on LinkedIn. You'll be thankful that you did. Samir, I'm coming at you with a totally, completely different question. Are you sitting down? Are you ready for this question?
Hold on. Yeah. I'm good.
Are you good? Okay. I'm coming at you with it's not a different question. Samir, when you were a little guy growing up, who was your hero?
My hero? Oh, man. So my hero was probably Robin Williams, man. The dude just spoke to me in a way that I just haven't had anyone else. And it was just energy, always. just on the spot, like whenever, like his stand-ups were fantastic. Nothing was ever pre-rehearsed, and it just always felt like he brought energy to everything. And that's kind of like what I like to do now, is like I want to be the person that puts a smile on everyone's face, like really like provide them the energy they need to like get through the problems. And to be honest, man, being in cybersec, like people come at us really depressed because they've been hit with the worst, right? Like they can't get revenue. They're being like exploited for millions. It's not fun. But you know what does help? A jovial person trying to help you navigate these terrible waters and get you through it. So you're at the end, you're back to doing business stuff again. And I kind of pulled that stuff from Robin Williams, just a person that helps you get through hard times. Like I like that.
That's awesome. You know, it made me think of, you know, to tie it in with Cam, he had Mr. Adams. I thought of Patrick Adams.
Dude, that's
and
really
now
good. Yeah.
I have a trivia question, Samir, being that you're a young guy. Do you remember Robin Williams' first TV show, Damon? You remember that back in the 70s. What was Robin Williams' first TV show? Man, I was hooked on that show. Do you remember?
Oh, was it Mork and Mindy?
Yeah, there you go, Gina.
That is
Great answer,
incorrect.
Gina.
I did not know.
Incorrect. The correct
Mork
answer
and
is
Mindy.
what it
So
was.
Samir,
no. It was Happy Days.
was he on?
Oh, yes,
He was on
Happy
Happy Days.
Days.
Mork and
He was
Mindy
on
was a
Happy Days.
spin-off.
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You're right.
Sweet.
Cam is 100% correct. So Cam, well done, my friend.
I will look for my prize in the mail.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
He was on Happy Days as Mork. Can you believe that? Cam, dude, that was impressive.
Yep.
That was very well done. All right, so we've got Mr. Adams. We've got Robin Williams. Gina, I'm coming at you. I know I've asked you this before, but I'm going to hit you again. Who was as a little girl growing up, who was your hero that you looked up to?
Yeah, my answer is always going to be my grandfather, my mom's dad. He was professionally, he was a cake decorator at a age-old, well-respected bakery called Huff Bakery in Cleveland, and before that, Spang Bakery. And back then, it was an art. I mean, it was an art form. The flowers he could make by hand, and he made my first birthday cake, of course. And every Easter, we would have a lamb cake, and he would make that. I still have his mold. But he was, at heart, he was an artist and a writer and a poet. And he painted and wrote, and he taught me how to read. I would sit on his lap in a recliner with him, and he would read to me, and then I would learn how to read. And he was just the kindest, gentlest, loving human being you could ever meet in your life. And he died when I was 6. And I remember everything about him. And when I grew up, I asked my mom, I said, Mom, was Grandpa as amazing of a person as I remember as a little kid? Because, you know, when you're a little kid, sometimes you're naive and you don't see what you don't see. Mm-hmm. And she said, Gina, he was the best father anyone could ever ask for on the face of the earth. He was the most wonderful man I've ever met in my life. And so he's my hero.
Gosh, what, man, dude, what a great answer.
Yeah.
And what was your grandfather's name, please?
Stanley. And to watch, I've seen people suffer with grace. Like, he had diabetes, and back then that was a death sentence. And he lost his legs. He was very sick. Never unkind, never mean, never complained. One time he yelled at me. I remember he was trying to sleep, and he yelled at me, "Be quiet, I'm trying to sleep." And I burst out crying because he had never yelled at me. And he was like, "Oh, baby, I'm so sorry. I'll never do that again. Oh, my sweetheart, it's not your fault. Grandpa just doesn't feel well." Like, this man apologized upside down for yelling at me once in his life. And I feel like that's being in the presence of grace.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I tell you, the apple didn't fall far. So, Gino, thank you for sharing that. What a beautiful testament to Stanley. And man, did he set the bar high for all of us as guys? Like Samir, you're just talking about your 17-month-old daughter, and Cam, you're talking about your 3 kids. I mean, to have somebody speak about you that way, what a testament to Stanley. So, what a blessing he was for you, Gina. Thank you for sharing that. So, all right, guys. Let's dive in. So thank you for sharing your heroes. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's dive into business. Cam, I'm coming at you first. You're batting first today, Cam. You can handle it, right? You're a good leadoff hitter, right?
Easy stuff. If I don't know the answer, I will make one up. I tell everybody, if you are familiar with like hallucinations and factuality problems with AI, I can do that 10 times better than any AI.
There you go.
Cam was AI before AI was cool, right?
Yep.
So, all right, Cam.
Yes.
All right, Cam. Please share a little bit our conversation today. And Gina, thank you for setting us up. Gina, I'm giving Gina 100% credit for this. Gina, thank you for bringing our friends on today. Your friends. Hopefully, they're not our friends. Cam, tell us a little bit about you, your company. How do you guys make the world a better place? What's going on?
Well, I mean, I wear a lot of different hats, so it's a little bit complicated to answer that. But, I've done a lot of things, everything from, just like working on policies and procedures. I've worked in the federal agency space. I help volunteer with the U.S. Marine Corps as a cyber auxiliarist. I've worked in nuclear energy licensees. A lot of what I do is a combination of hard work. So at Dido, we're a premier partner. We're Google first, and there I basically help manage, migrate, and secure the cloud. I run our cybersecurity division, and we are Google's preferred partner for civilian and DoD authorities to operate. Very proud of my work, helping everything from grandmothers and small mom and pop shops to some of the largest cybersecurity companies on the planet. At Peregrine, we do a lot of research and, work. So Peregrine Computer Consultants Corporation, we do a lot of research into anti-spam that has helped me be able to do things like the CAM rule set and work. Like, for example, in Lisbon last month, I was honored for lifetime achievement work with the Mary Latinsky Award for helping keep the internet safe. So I publish threat data that we've done for over 20 years at no charge. It protects hundreds of millions of mailboxes every single day. That's probably one of the bigger things that I do. And then my volunteerism and, work with the Apache Software Foundation, especially with Apache Spam Assassin and other related open source softwares that really have changed how we compute. In 25 years, the way software is done has changed radically. And the Apache Software Foundation has been a lot of the reason for that.
Well, geez, what an underachiever he is, Gina,
Yeah.
right? So, man, I got to beef up my resume here to keep up with Cam. So, Cam,
Right.
next question: do you ever sleep, or my goodness gracious, how do you keep up?
I do sleep, but the nice part is, if you think about my story that I told you about playing with computers, I'm blessed. The another Mark Twain quote, since you like them, is what is it? Enjoy what you do, and you'll never work a day in your life. I'm very blessed that way. So, it is my hobby, it is my work, and I'm blessed that it pays more than a forest ranger. As I talked about a little bit earlier. So, yes, I do get sleep, but probably not as much as I should.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on the Lifetime Achievement Award. And Samir, before we come over to you, Cam, just share with folks, if they're not familiar with that award, just give us a little, and don't be modest, just share a little bit about what is that award and just what that meant to you and your family.
Yeah, so MAUG, or the Malware Abuse Acting Group, I'd have to look up the exact acronym. It's like M 3 times, mobile malware and something abuse, anti-abuse working group. It's an organization that works to stop phishing, malware, spam, and has done so for a long time. This was their 65th meeting last month, and it's 63rd meeting, excuse me. And the award is based on a lady named Mary Latinsky, who is behind the scenes at the organization, just making things work. And so they try and honor people that aren't necessarily out at the forefront, aren't publicly known, but are working to make things safer. And some of the past awardees that I'm very proud to be with are people like Neil Schwartzman, Paul Vixie, Brian Krebs, and some others. So a couple dozen more. So
awesome. Well, very impressive. Congratulations. Well done. Well deserved. And just, love what you're doing. Samir, let's come over to you, my friend. Share a little bit about you, your background, your company. How are you making the world a better place?
Oh, man. So we're doing what we can, just working as hard as we can. So my background, I am a cloud professional, dove real into the cloud environment, was infatuated. You know what I don't like? Hardware. So when it comes to building things for enterprises and companies, SMBs, I really enjoyed the cloud space because it just got rid of all the headache that everyone has to deal with. From there, grew into more architecture stuff, really trying to navigate, fix things up, spruce things up for businesses that tried to get into that space. And then that landed me in cybersec. I have been doing cybersecurity for quite a few years now, and it is a lot of trying to scope in the needs of the business versus the risks. And that has been a challenge. It's super fun, but it's a really interesting challenge. And from that, I created 2 businesses. I'm a founder of a company called Data Pros Consulting. That is an incident response firm, and a payment verification product called Versetti Verify. It was SafePay, but the domain space was awful, so we just flipped that up. And that honestly kind of builds itself off of the foundation work that Cam and others have like really created. It's really important to like look at, you know, why we have spam filters and all these other components to like creating a safe, secure environment. But like, it's not done. The job is not done. It's never done. It's a continuous effort, and we have to continue to build on top of those pieces to like combat the bad guys. I mean, this is all I do is just fight bad dudes. So at this point, it's just a fun thing that I really enjoy. Like, I love competitiveness. I love the challenge to like take on something that's doing a huge amount of damage to an organization. And that's kind of where we shine. We come in, we provide that knowledge to people on like what you need to do to navigate these problems, and then getting them out of that hole.
Love it. Absolutely love it, man. That was a great answer. And so running 2 companies. And so when we're going to go back around, when I come back to you, I want you to think about, we love talking about entrepreneurship, but just share a little bit, like, what's it like running 2 companies? Talk about like, Gina, you keep getting all these underachievers on the
sorry.
here, right? So like, what's it like running 2 companies, Samir?
I'm blessed. I'm blessed. There's a lot of synergistic pipeline components between both. And that's kind of the key to why I'm able to do it. And it's not easy to run 2 companies, obviously, and because they have to be separate entities. One of them has to follow policy procedures and compliance regulations through payments and stuff. And the other one is just an incident response firm. So we had to separate and segregate based off of like components. And because of that, obviously, it's a little bit more of a headache to kind of like juggle those 2 pieces. But what I would say is it's doable because our clientele and our prospects are very in line. So our pipelines work together very well.
Nice. Excellent.
Nice.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So Gina, let's come over to you. So you were on the show one time. You were with the Cleveland MEP. You were with Magnet. Another time, last time you were on the show, I believe you just launched Barracuda. So just share with folks, who is Barracuda? How are you making the world a better place?
Well, yes, I launched Barracuda officially September 2023 while I was working full-time for a manufacturing company. And that role ended last year. And I've been doing my consulting work in the interim while I'm looking for my next W-2 gig. But I always will do the consulting on the side. I wanted to build the business to take it with me into retirement, to supplement my income and also supplement my income in these crazy economy nowadays. So what I do is I do B2B marketing primarily for manufacturers, but also I've worked with software companies and consultants and other kinds of companies, but my heart is in manufacturing, which is where I've specialized. How I'm doing good in the world is meeting people like Samir and Cam and pulling partners close. I feel like my trajectory launching my business, I met people I never would have met. I've learned things I never would have learned, and it has been a miraculous process. And I think the people are the most important part of that. Just I have lifelong friends now, and people in every field and every industry and every talent. And it seems like I've met the best of the best. And they make me better. So and I don't think I told you this, Curt, because if the last time I was on here was September of 2023, last year in 2024, I launched something called the Manufacturing Resource Group. And it's a consortium of service partners who can serve manufacturers. And the idea was, if a manufacturer is challenged with budget and they don't have the cash flow to hire people to make them money, we can come in as a unit or multiple people. You don't have to bring all of us in. And the idea was save manufacturers capital they didn't know they were losing, that they could then reinvest into their business to hire the people who can make them money without allocating existing budget to that work. And so again, I went out there in networking groups and one-on-ones and met the most powerful, intelligent, loving, compassionate group of people I could ever meet. And I pulled them together into this consortium. And so that's been my latest endeavor. I went from not being an entrepreneur to like Samir and Cam. Now I'm serialpreneuring.
You're serialpreneuring. Well, I love it. And I'll tell you, if get a chance, go to B2Btail, just type in Gina in the search box. And the last session, Gina, you gave a masterclass on manufacturing strategies for marketing strategies for manufacturers. I learned a ton. It was an absolute powerful conversation. Encourage people to go back and check that out. So how did you cross paths with these two fine young men, and why cyber from your perspective? And then Cam, we're going to come back to you next.
Yeah, that's a good segue. Well, what happened was I go to a networking group for manufacturers and distributors that originated out of the Atlanta, Georgia area. It's a virtual networking group. And I met Samir there. He was in the meeting, and then the meeting has additional breakouts after the meeting. So they'll have 3 people meet and do a 3-on-3 meeting. Kind of like a one-on-one after a networking group, but it's 3 of you that get together and you do a deeper dive and get to know each other. And Samir and I just had so much synergy and really hit it off as just on a human level.
I was so impressed by your presentation. It was amazing. It was really amazing.
Thank you. Oh, that was the panel discussion that we did. Yeah, we did a panel discussion on marketing. And then Samir's friends with Cam, and he introduced me to Cam. And the reason we teamed up is because tech stacks are at risk and marketing is dependent on a pillar of tech stacks. You know, your CRM, your website, your social media, your email marketing, all your documents, your share drives, everything that goes into your business, not just on your shop floor, not just in your HR department, but everywhere. And marketing is really dependent on the tech stack. And so Samir and Cam and I saw synergy here, that we see an opportunity because a lot of, especially small to mid-sized manufacturers, they don't have an in-house IT department often. And if they do, they sub it out to an IT help desk or service center, which is not really full-blown cybersecurity. They don't have a disaster recovery plan in place. And then they get hit with ransomware and it takes them down, and you've got to spend millions of dollars to get your assets back, and you're losing all the money while you're negotiating and trying to get those assets back. And we just thought we had a really powerful message to share as a collaborative group. And, you know, Cam from the operations space, Samir from the cybersecurity space, me from the marketing space, and all of us connected with manufacturing.
Love it. Absolutely love it, Gina. So, all right. Thank you. And man, what a fierce networker Gina is, Damon. I mean, like, she's all over the place. I know, I believe you and I met years ago with the Twitter group, and then active here on LinkedIn. And so, Cam, let's come over to you. So we're here talking about how, I have I've heard a manufacturing story here locally where they get that ransom situation and it's ugly. Share a little bit. My first question for you, I'd like to know, like, you had this epiphany at 4 years old. You knew why you were put on this planet. You could have gone multiple different directions. Computer, why cyber? And then let's start diving into some tips and suggestions for folks and how could they start better protecting themselves.
Well, I would call you a gray beard, but you're losing your hair like me, and I name all my gray hairs after my kids. But I started doing cyber before it was called cyber. I mean, we just really were just solving problems, very reactive. Originally the first internet connections I had were direct IPs.
We lost you, Cam.
Well, we lost you, Cam.
We can't hear you, Cam.
Hey, Cam, we can't hear you.
You can hear us either.
I think his Bluetooth headset went off and it died.
Hey, Cam.
Your Bluetooth headset died.
No, I think the internet went out. Am I here still? Yeah.
You're here.
You are. We just couldn't
my
hear
Bluetooth
you.
took it. I apologize.
No worries.
Stupid technology. No, I was just saying.
Take two.
I can say it better now. Yes. By the way, I would like to say that Gina missed the opportunity to save your assets, but that's just me there. So cyber was very reactive, just solving problems that were creeping up, and the internet is an interesting place. I love being involved with places like the IETF and having mentors like Dr. Levine and stuff like that. But a lot of them are they've never seen an evil side of the world, and so many things were set up on the internet where they didn't really think people were going to use it maliciously, and so it's been very reactive to try and solve those problems. So I don't think it was so much like that I got into cyber as much as I got into how do I protect this, and then that led to those things. And we didn't even call it cyber, like for probably about 2 decades ago we really started calling it cybersecurity, but before that it was just part of having a service. So
excellent. So let's start tipping our toe. Any like, what are you seeing on the streets? What are some things, like, we're targeting small manufacturers? What are some steps or some advice that you have for folks out there?
I think the number one is, probably the biggest thing that I try and get people to do is to recognize that there's 3 key points whenever I'm talking about a project. It's what's your budget, what's your timeline, and what's your goals. And so many companies want to keep 2 of those 3 items hidden, which makes it very difficult because, it's normally about risk adversity or risk handling. And so, if you tell me what your budget is, you tell me what your timeline is, you tell me what your goals are, I can say, okay, in your shoes, I can apportion this money this way, or I can do these tasks, or no, you're way off base with how much this is going to cost and whatnot. But it really dives down to how dependent are you on your technology, and, budget accordingly. I normally tell people, like, for example, if the internet goes out and your business stops, then you don't have backup procedures for that. You're just ostriching or hiding your head in the sand. So, think about how dependent you are on technology. What would happen if they're disrupted? Like Gina said, do you have a disaster recovery plan? Are you doing actual tests? Can you do things like turn off the internet and continue doing what your manufacturing is? Can you still take orders? Can you still ship orders? If you can't, what can you do to fix those and de-risk those individual problems?
And it's so interesting now in manufacturing how many different paths that cyber criminals have. Because last year I had a friend of mine, running a manufacturing company, might have been the year before, but they were running an older plasma cutter, right? An old piece of equipment that you would go, yes, it had a hard drive in it, but a computer was 10 years old or more. But it somehow was connected to the internet. Someone locked that thing up. They ended up having to go back to the manufacturer and get the entire thing re-imaged on a new hard drive, and basically throw the hard drive away, change however it was connected to the internet, and start over again. Stop their production through that machine for like 3 weeks.
Well, if I can jump in there for a second, the 3 of us, Gina, Samir, and myself, are doing a presentation on the 13th for women in manufacturing. And I know one of the points I talk about is what I call the cyber danger zone. And it is specifically connecting OT and IT. OT, for those who don't know on the call, is operational technology. Yep. Operational technology is an old boss of mine. I loved his quote, Mark Rohrbaugh, is anything that interfaces with the real world. So a building access control system, motor operated valve, a plasma cutter, it interfaces and does something real. IT is what most people are used to with informational technology and firewalls and servers and, those kind of things. But when you connect the 2, that's where you get problems, because a lot of OT equipment, like you described, is sometimes decades old. Yeah. It might have been designed literally in 1960. Yep. It had no idea of cybersecurity, and all of a sudden you're plugging it in and you're letting it do things with the internet. Is usually a recipe for danger. So that was a good softball to set me up for that and whatnot. But March 13th, I know Gina will probably put a link or give it to you guys and whatnot to promote it. But all right. That is a huge problem.
And that's this Thursday, right? 13th is Thursday. So nice. Awesome, man. The 3 of you together, what a wild threesome. Man, you guys are just a powerhouse of
and don't
cyber.
Forget,
you're just saving cyber everywhere. So
and Friday is Pi Day. It's
Yeah,
3.14.
dude.
Friday is Pi Day. That's right. So,
I mean,
you know, and the cyber danger zone. That sounds like a movie right there.
Yeah.
That could be like a good, like
worst song
Well,
ever. Yeah.
the worst song ever. Cyber, the danger zone, right? So, Samir, what do you got, Damon?
Well, the thing is that cyber crime used to be something that was reserved for larger companies, but now it's the company down the street from you. It's if you probably can't walk down the street or through an industrial park and not touch a company that hasn't been hit by it, or one of their suppliers have been hit by it. But I'm not talking, $2 billion companies, because we've seen that, obviously. But these are people that are a few $1 million.
Or
in
less.
revenue.
I mean, it can be an excess. I mean, I probably would have to sit down and look at a calendar and tell you the last week where I didn't have somebody calling me that was in tears, because and it can be $100, it can be $1,000, it can be 10. I mean, everybody's pain points are their own, but the number of scams I see and hitting very, very small organizations or even individuals up to large companies, it's Samir mentioned it. I actually have to usually warn people like, hey, I'm going to use humor. I'm going to use dad jokes, because, you don't want to sit here and listen to me give training for 4 or 8 hours or whatever about a problem without some levity. And, the dad jokes are like my compensation for how to deal with, dealing with the dregs of the internet every single day. I will give you my favorite one. I mentioned a little bit about my son, but my son was heavily affected by autism. He was very young at the time, very nonverbal, didn't talk very much. We were at an event. Somebody had a shirt that had a sad-looking Tyrannosaurus Rex on it, and then it said, "If you're happy and you know it, clap your," and then went, "Oh." And my son was like looking at this shirt, and he's looking at it. He's like, he's very clearly affected by this shirt, and he goes to me and he says, "Dad, do you know why Tyrannosaurus Rexes can't clap their hands?" And by this time I'm doing like and stuff like that, and that's what most people do. And he goes, "It's because they're dead." So
That's awesome.
Out of the mouth of babes.
What's your son's name?
Dylan.
Drop the mic, Dylan, man. That was what a stroke of genius that was, because they're dead.
Yeah.
Oh my Damon, hands down, Gina, that was the best dad joke on this show of all time.
Yeah, it is.
Cam, thank you, dude. Thank you for the best. Tell Dylan, thank you for the best dad joke of all time from your son, Dylan. So that was brilliant. Samir, let's come at you, man. I gotta get my composure back. So
All right.
Samir, all right, we gotta get our serious faces on, right? So you are a cloud expert. Just share a little bit. How did you gravitate your expertise, your passion, your skill set? You're a crusader of helping folks with cyber. Why did you go that direction? And let's dive in. Let's kind of piggyback off of Cam. What are some things that you're seeing on the street? What are some things that people can be doing? Let's go there.
So what kind of got me into this is skill set, honestly. You eventually grow into cyber, what I've seen, no matter what. So it's an accumulation of knowledge in the industry and where you're needed. People grow into each of these stages in technology, but what is the least amount of populace is the high tier cybersecurity guys. That's nothing that is intentional. You can go learn cybersecurity, but if you don't understand every aspect of the rest of technology, you're going to struggle in that space because you're not providing the response and consulting that people need. And I have had the fortune of working with all kinds of organizations. I've worked with multiple MSPs, managed service providers that cater to things of churches, manufacturings, hedge funds. I've worked with a number of different conglomerates, Honeywell, Relics. So I get the scope of technology. I know where the use cases are, how to do it, what to do. And that just makes a really good cybersecurity professional. And it's not so much that we're honing in on specifics for cybersecurity, but to understand how someone gets in, you need to know what keys they're using, where's the door, where's everything else that's a part of this. But that's kind of what led me into it and why I'm decent at it. You know what I'm saying? I got to go through, the gamut. But yeah, tips for you guys. And this is me kind of similar to Cam. We're seeing a lot of stuff that's where we used to have attacks on the major groups, but it's more so everybody now. And why is it everybody? It's because the major groups invested in cybersecurity over the last decade.
Mhm.
Everyone else is trying to get their footing into technology in general to even get to the point where they can consider and focus on cybersecurity. A lot of the environments that are in manufacturing, unfortunately, aren't the best. And that is a well-known exploitable thing for cyber criminals. They are looking at manufacturing because they know what technology they have on the floor for operational technology. They know what their stack looks like. They know what their networking equipment looks like. It's not uncommon to look at these businesses in rural areas that are doing, 5 to 50 million in revenue and be like, that's who we're targeting. And these are out of country agents. This is, Russia, Ukraine. We're looking at people that are looking at businesses that are providing products, tangible products. It has to be tangible because they are the ones that have the most diverse technology needs. Like you have to have this weird machine that like folds metal into this thing. And if it connects to the internet, oh God, if it connects to the internet, because a lot of them run off software, like Cam was suggesting, that goes off of different operating systems. If you are on a Windows 7 machine, problem, it just means like the less you are up to date right now with the ever surging boom of technology, the more vulnerable you're going to be. And honestly, if you are at the peak cutting edge, you're also in that vulnerability shape. So keeping yourself in that medium of like, I'm not using stuff that's expired. I'm not using the newest thing that exists, but I am keeping things up to date and patched in my environment. Those are going to be the key pieces that are going to help you like not get robbed so often. Like I hate to say it like that. I hate to be nonchalant about it, but like it's just what's happening. And if you don't do these important things, if you don't take charge of your technology, which is like the big underlining component, if you don't take charge and care, if you ostrich, like Cam was alluding to, you're going to be one of those people that are vulnerable to these kind of attacks. And it's hard. It's hard.
Wow. Okay. And it gets a little scary. So Gina, talk a little bit. You guys have a wonderful event coming up this Thursday. Just share a little bit about, I know you're super active with women in manufacturing. Let's talk about the event on Thursday, please.
Yeah. Well, before I go to the event, do I have a minute to jump in? And
you can take all day.
Samir and Cam, I wanted to take it one step further. What they said, cyber criminals in the past were using marketing methods, typical marketing methods, to attack people. An email, with requesting you to send a laptop because he left it in his car, or a gift card because your boss lost his wallet. And they were badly spelled. We had red flags, really crazy email addresses that they came from. But cyber criminals now have become even more advanced because of technology. So they are using AI to attack people. And so their attacks have become more sophisticated through the use of AI. So it's a little bit more complex than it was even a couple years ago. And then the other thing I wanted to mention from my area of expertise is I have a Lean Six Sigma background. And Samir and Cam and I have talked about how cybersecurity is a process like any other process. So a lot of manufacturers practice Lean Six Sigma on their shop floor to avoid rework, eliminate waste, improve processes, increase efficiencies. But then sometimes they're not doing it throughout the rest of their facility. And I've preached that about marketing, how I apply Lean Six Sigma to my marketing process. But your entire organization should be optimized. So, cybersecurity is a process, and it needs to follow the same protocols you'd follow to protect your operations on your plant floor. So with regard to the events, Thursday's a busy day for Miss Gina. We are doing this virtual event for women in manufacturing. It's a lunch and learn, and it goes way deeper into some of the things we touched on just now. A lot of data, a lot of information. And it's at 11:30 to 1 Eastern Standard Time. And you can register for that up until Wednesday the 12th, the end of the day the 12th. We've got about 40 people or so coming already that are registered, but there's plenty of room because it's a virtual meeting. And then you talked about how we met, Curt. USA Manufacturing Hour, the Twitter chat.
Yep.
I am hosting this week's Twitter chat
Oh, nice.
at
Awesome.
2:00 Eastern, and I'm going to be talking about cybersecurity. So I kind of used some talking points from Cam and Samir and I's presentation for WIM and pulled that into a quick down and dirty for USA Manufacturing Hour.
Excellent. All right, man, you have a hectic week, my friend. So here with us live today, you've got the WIM program coming up on you said on the same
Thursday.
day as your so you're doing it back to back, right?
Well, yeah, 11:30 to 1 on Thursday, and then 2 to 3 on Thursday.
Nice. Well, you are.
I wish I could get paid to do this stuff. I love it. I would love to do this full time.
So you're really gravitating to. All right, so Cam, let's come back to you. You piqued my curiosity, not to reveal anything, but you said like there's not a week that goes by when somebody's not in tears. Can you just walk us through? So when somebody has been impacted, what are the first steps? They have no idea where to turn.
Yeah.
What's a 101? What do we do?
Well, it depends on how they get a hold of somebody like myself, like Samir, somebody, like I pride myself as a truth sayer. So one of the things I try and do is start giving people information, start dealing with things that are time sensitive. So like, for example, one of the biggest things I want to do is get them generally to try and calm down. They're going through like just literally like the 5 stages of grief. Sometimes they are literally crying and I can barely, understand even what they're saying, but, I need to get facts. I need to get some of them very, very quickly. So, I'm kind of like a slap in the face or a cold water splash in the face, kind of trying to go, okay, look, I need you to calm down and give me some information. We might be able to help. Because like, for example, if this happened like 3 hours ago, those companies or the bad actors, will be working to mule that money out of the U.S. Usually at like $10,000 at a time. And so if we can get a hold of it in a certain period of time, we can start to put blocks on ACH. We can start following the threads and contacting banks. It won't get them their money back necessarily right away, but like sometimes if we can freeze the funds, they will see it back in, no joke, 2 to 6 months, they might get it back. There's a whole bunch of procedures to prove it's their money and those kind of things. But, so usually I'm trying to see, is there anything we can do that would, halt the damage as quick as possible? Did they use a credit card? Did they use a debit card? Did they use a check? Did they do an ACH transfer? What can we do it? And then from there, it's usually gathering information, trying to figure out how did they get in? What are the particular policies and procedures? We approach it very much from an engineering standpoint. How did this occur and how can we prevent it from happening again? And the bad part is that it doesn't usually have anything to do with intelligence or anything like that. People are usually pretty down on themselves. People are like usually feeling really bad, but it's a lot of times it's about catching people at the right time. One of the stories from last year, a lady, she just wanted to find love and she fell for one of these like, kind of love scams. And I kid you not, I mean, you go back and you're like looking at this as an outside person, and she was laughing at it too, but laughing with like tears because, the whole scam she fell for was an oil rig person who needed money paid so they could go on vacation. That was, and I kid you not, the letter from the oil rig captain was literally Captain Crunch. And I'm like, really? You fell for this? But I mean, she probably has 180 IQ. She teaches high level math. It's just, they caught her vulnerable, and like, for example, I had another customer that last week was literally waiting and waiting and waiting for a specific contract to come in. And something came in similar from DocuSign that was fake. And they had people all ramped up waiting for it, like ready to jump on it. And then sometimes it's other things. So, the biggest thing I normally try and do is get a handle on what's the TTP, the tactics, techniques, and procedures that were used, trying to figure out if there's any way if it's financial harm that we could put a stop to it. And then guiding people just on how to deal with this legally, ethically, professionally, responsibly, and deal with it. And hopefully have it not be an existential threat to the company, because unfortunately, more often than not, shouldn't say more often, a considerable amount of the time, it can be enough to put a company under.
Yeah.
And I think from the emotional, like you mentioned, all the other traits, as you said, like people are in tears, they feel embarrassed, like how often do you feel like you're playing a little bit of like shrink, like just kind of
Oh,
helping them
absolutely.
emotionally, right?
And a lot of times I'm like, look, we can deal with the therapy later. I need answers like
You
now,
need to answer
because
that. So you're playing detective.
yeah, I'm playing detective, and it's like, kind of like, a murder has just occurred, and the suspect could be around the corner. So,
Right.
Yeah.
if we find the dead body, 18 days later, it's totally different, kind of thing. But usually I'm trying to time is of the essence in a lot of these cases. So, trying to be cognizant of, and like I said, I tell people, like, I'm not blasé to this. I understand what you're going through. And I'll tell you a funny story. One time I was working at a federal agency, and I was briefing about 200 people about a nation state level attack. And so I had about 200 engineers sitting in chairs, and somebody interrupted me and asked me why I was being so calm. And I said, well, I've got 200 engineers looking to me for guidance. If you'd prefer me to have a breakdown, I could do that if you think it will help, but in the meantime, I'm going back to my briefing. And I got back to my desk, and I had an email from leadership at the agency, and it had basically one sentence in it, and it said, "Are you aware that was a U.S. senator?" And I wrote back and just said no, but it wouldn't have changed my answer anyway. And aren't you supposed to let me know when there's VIPs on my floor? So, it's, there is a level where I have recognized sometimes we're almost too calm, we're too dry. So like, for example, a lot of times if I'm doing a training or something like that, that's right after a compromise, we will tell people, hey, we're going to bring in dad jokes. We're going to, bring some humor to this. We're going to bring some levity. It's not that we don't appreciate the gravity of this impact on your company, but what do you want? A boring presentation that won't resonate with people, or do you want some humor and people that take this very carefully and passionately and try and make things better? So
I will also add on to that.
Please, Samir.
Panic leads to bad things happening. Okay.
Yes.
When you are panicking and you don't have guidance, you don't have direction, you haven't built a disaster recovery kind of thing, and you start making decisions, unconsulted decisions on how you are going to defend your company against these guys that you don't even understand how they're attacking. I have seen reboots. I've seen like things that get rid of our forensic logs to be able to do these root cause analysis, to play detective, like Cam was saying, that would help us put you in a world of like much better results than, you've already done. So, I mean, it's not just a tactic to like, make things easier. It's to put us in a position away from panic. Panic can just cause way too many bad problems for like
number one technique that con artists use for thousands of years, not just in the recent days. Number one is to try and get you to separate your emotion and your logic. And if they can pull a lever that does that, then they will get you to turn on your lizard brain and do whatever they want them to do. And the number one thing I hear during incident response is something akin to 10 seconds after I did it, I knew I shouldn't have done it. And the whole thing I try and do is to get people to step back, take that 10 seconds, talk to some experts. I will give free advice to people. I've probably given away at least a couple thousand hours of free advice to people during incidents, just to try and avoid exactly what Samir is talking about. Things like, well, I thought it would be better if I did this, or I decided to respond to them and do this, or, those kind of things. And it's just, Samir basically did it a little kinder than, the smack your face and okay, all right, now this is what we have to deal with, and instead of the
and it's like you said, though, you separate your logic from your emotion, and the emotion takes over, and you're like, oh man, it could be
And Gina brought up a great point, because she talked about it from a marketing standpoint. One of the things I point out is, while I have black hat background, and someday you can have me on and ask me some questions about like FBI raids and helicopter chases, these days I'm completely a gray hat. I can never be a white hat until I fight a Balrog, but you got to be a Lord of the Rings fan to get that,
bro.
But when we're dealing with these type of situations, I'm a behavioralist. I watch what the bad actors are doing. So for example, we just published a 0-day that we found last month, and that 0-day we found by watching what the bad actors were doing and going, oh, why are they doing that? And then reverse engineering what they were doing, not using hacking skills. We basically just watch what they're doing. And so we're behavioralists. And thankfully, most con artists are not behavioralists. But like, for example, what Gina was talking about with marketing, everybody's gotten those emails that are like, for example, very bad English, very bad spelling. They're very easy to figure out. And what I tell most people is there's actually a reason they do it that way. Any guesses from you guys on here why they do that way? So pretend that there's 5 steps to get the scam before they actually get their money. The email is step 1. And so they are actually pre-filtering to get people that are more likely to follow through with all the steps. So in marketing parlance, we would say this is a pre-qualified lead generator.
Yeah.
And we see it all the time. They use other techniques. They'll use fear of missing out. Like, for example, one of my favorite things to talk about is like the scams and how old they are. But like, for example, a question I like asking is, when was the first electronic spam sent? I won't be professor today, so I'll tell you. Depending on your answer, it's either 1861 or 1864, sent by telegraph. Literally hawking either real estate or dental material. So many of these scams and the concepts we're dealing with are not new. Another great example that goes into marketing, you've probably heard the phrase like, oh yeah, what are you going to do next? Sell me a bridge. You may not be aware that's a real scam.
Yep.
So in the early 1900s, when they were building the first toll bridges in New York City, scammers went and printed up very fancy looking stock certificates. And then, Damon will play the target here. And so, I'd go up to Damon and I have 5 stock certificates and I'd start pitching him about the stock certificates. And hey, you give me $1 for a stock certificate and you'll never have to pay a toll anymore when you go across this new toll bridge that's building and whatnot. And then Samir is my, partner in crime here. And he and Gina will come up to me and go, oh, what are you selling? Oh, you got those stock certificates? How much are they? $1? Oh, that's cheaper than the guy down the street. Here, sell me 3 of those and I'll take 1. And now I've got 1 left. And you've just had marketing, 101 where they've validated the claim, and you've got fear of missing out now, where you're like, oh my gosh, here's $1, give me that stock certificate. And of course, me, Gina, and Samir meet up on the next corner, have a good laugh, split the $1, and then we get back the 3 other certificates, grab another one out of a briefcase that we've got, and we walk to the next corner and look for our next mark. So
that was George Parker. He was a famous American con man, and his entire living he made illegally selling like property he didn't own in New York, all kinds of landmarks, and a lot of times to immigrants, like people who were vulnerable communities. Like, look at how many times nowadays these hackers and scammers are scamming elderly people.
Yep.
They're going after vulnerable communities, and manufacturing is a vulnerable community.
Yeah. One of the big ones that I've been dealing with from about 4 weeks ago, people getting taken for about $15,000. They would do a fake ACH deposit and then threaten that they would affect their clearance.
Yep.
And so they had gotten a hold of people that were searching, that were in the process of getting their security clearances. And they would say, you have to pay this money back right away because it was accidentally put in your thing, or we're going to charge you with theft, and that's going to affect your clearance. And of course, the ACH would bounce a couple of days later, and meanwhile, people would have transferred the money to cover the ACH, and it's gone. So yeah, it's yes, but yeah.
It's so, and I know we're coming into time. We could be chatting about this all day. The Cam, what I love what you're saying, because a lot of folks, when I have these conversations, like Samir, you mentioned, like, burying your head in the sand, or Cam, I think you did as well. It's not technology. It's always been there. Like you said, we could go back centuries, and there's people scamming. Unfortunately, just Samir, are there really bad people out there? They really have bad intentions? Is that how the world is? We think we should be.
You kind of have to look at like the global economy, right? Like, to them, it depends. It's all about like value of a dollar where you're at in the world, right? So, and that also kind of lets you know who your targets are, right? So depending, and this is coming from like heat maps globally where we're like, okay, we're getting a lot of attacks from like certain areas and what type of attacks they are. It is kind of where scammers are in the world and like what matters to them. Because I mean, I've seen $10,000 attacks from like certain groups, but then like you start looking at these more organized syndicates that are doing, multi-millions. It really depends on like, where in the world they're coming from. And that helps us identify.
Iran, Iraq, Russia, China, former Soviet Union countries, Tunisia, and Nigeria. There's your your
little bit of Turkey
usual
too,
suspects.
But
So, all right. So Samir, we'll start winding down. Anything that you want to add as we start wrapping things up? Any tips, any suggestions for folks to kind of, again, we can't hide our heads in the sand. We can't ignore technology. We can't go hide from the internet. What are some things like, how can people be more resilient to protect themselves?
So I want to start with an important piece of information, because a lot of the stuff that Cam was talking about was ACH, credit card, and stuff like that. Those are the pieces that if you're a business owner, if you're doing business operations, you have a business bank account, right? You need to know the restrictions and regulations that are around that. There's a group called NACHA, N-A-C-H-A. They're the policy group that basically determines whether or not a bank is allowed to be on the ACH network, right? Now, without going into too much detail, they basically flat out said that if you have a business bank account, you have less than 48 hours to deal with a fraud instance. Back to Cam's thing, we don't have time when bad things happen. You need to realize them as quickly as possible and then contact a professional, contact your bank, get on it. The normal person basically has like 60 days to deal with a fraud instance, which is why it's so much more important for business owners to be vigilant and like be aware. If a mistake has made, if you aren't able to deal with it within hours, like it's gone. It's gone. And gave that 5-hour window. That's very real. And it can take, even if you deal with it within that 5-hour window, you still have like 6 to 8 months for it to like get out of the clearinghouses and back to where it's supposed to go, right? And it's a challenge for businesses because it's like, where are you sending your money to? It's so important. And this is why I made my company for SETI Verify, because you need to know who you're sending money to when it's business related. You don't really have that window of opportunity to like chill and deal with it later. And they're targeting you. They're targeting your accountants at 5 p.m. on a Friday because they know that window is going to lapse. And they also know that there's no other party to verify that this is the correct thing because your business partner's accountant is off. Like it's 5 p.m. on a Friday. Who's going to actually be able to help you deal with that? These are the things that like keep me up at night because I can't save a business that is outside of its window for ACH fraud. I can save you from ransomware. We can build you back up. We can help you do that. But a lot of the time when you get hit with like these financial fraud situations and the moment that you get back to like, talking to a professional about it, it's already over.
Yeah, I just sent a flyer out and I forgot about this with Samir, but I typically tell people there's 3 policies that you can implement. And this was based on a study I did in 2023 of every incident response that we dealt with financial exfiltration, fancy term for money got stolen. So policy number 1 was ban the reimbursement of gift cards. It's one of the number 1 ways they try and get non-ACH transfers through. Number 2, ban the change for any ACH or direct deposit changes unless there's a secure form and what we call an out-of-band contact, meaning somebody who knows that person calls them or texts them that you verify this change. Also using Forseti and what Samir is building is how we started talking, because the ability to verify ACH with another method is the key. And then really for the rule of 3s here is use multi-factor authentication. If you did these 3 policies, you would stop every single hack that we had seen where money was stolen for several years worth of records.
Absolutely. And to kind of talk on top of this, what you're looking at are financial security controls. These are things that like you would practice as an organization. You would adopt this in your company culture, right? And it's not easy to get to this point. You need to have some sort of representation in your company that's going to lead this cultural effort, and then you can start enforcing these things. But like, if you don't have a core competency in technology and you don't understand your OT versus IT, getting to this point is, I hate to say it, it's a little bit of a pipe dream for a lot of them. So growing your technology, growing to yourself where you're able to like understand your own organizational needs, and then enforcing cybersecurity, financial security controls for people to follow is where you want to eventually get to. And what is it? I've heard it said before, you're all on a security journey. Where you are now and where you want to be, it's deterministic for, you know, your industry and your business, but that's where we want to take you guys. Like,
Yeah,
we want you to get to the final point of your security journey where you are confident and comfortable with the ever-flowing changes and the growth that comes with technology and your business.
yeah. Well, it's just, you know, the graphic that you had up there, the three things.
Stop sharing it
Yeah.
and kicked myself out of the show.
Yeah. But the graphic that you had up there is simple stuff, right? It's fundamental things. We have to just keep practicing the fundamentals and make sure. I've had this happen to me. I was on the board of a local nonprofit. I had other board members that called me up and said, "Hey, is something wrong? Because someone says you need Amazon gift cards." I'm like, "Nope," but they called me, right? Yeah. You've got to remember that every email you get, every text you get, every message you get on social media might be somebody else. So if it sounds odd, the only way to do it is to verify in person. I like you had one was in person up there or by phone. So you know it's not just an electronic fraud.
Exactly. And then this is another OT flyer. By the way, if companies are looking for it, love to talk to them about like doing like pack-in flyers, produce these for customers. The other side has company brands. You know, you can get these with invoices and things like that to help customers. That's why we do these kind of things. But yeah, it's
very cool.
It's awareness, man. It's all awareness.
It is awareness. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I know, man. We were going to go, we're like on overtime here, Gina.
Yep.
So let's wind down. And so, man, thank you, Gina. Thank you for setting us up. Gina, I'm going to go around the horn one last time. Take us home. Where can folks find you, Gina? I know LinkedIn, your website. Just share where folks can find you. 2 events coming up on Thursday. Just let's recap that, and then we'll close out for today.
Yeah. Well, you can reach me at barracudaB2B.com. Letter B, number 2, letter B. My email is gina@barracudaB2B.com, and I am on LinkedIn. I don't know if I'm the only Gina Tabasso or not. I never bothered to look, but I'm the best Gina Tabasso. And reminder, Thursday, 11:30 to 1, we're doing a deeper dive on cybersecurity for women in manufacturing virtual event. Registration still open. And I'm hosting the USA Manufacturing Hour Twitter chat from 2 to 3 that same day Eastern time, also on cybersecurity.
Excellent.
Nice.
All right, Gina, again, thank you. Cam, where can folks find you? Damon's dropped all 3 of your LinkedIn profiles in the chat box there. Cam, how can folks find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn's great to find me. I'll also, on the 17th, next Monday, I'll be teaching technical writing 2 for Google. It's free. So developers.google.com/tech-writing. You can see the classes. I also have one in April on technical writing with AI. So in addition to cybersecurity, I do a bunch of other topics and whatnot. So you can find me there. I enjoy people heckling me, dad jokes, etc. So
nice.
Awesome. Samir, where can folks find you?
LinkedIn is a fantastic way to get in contact with me. Samir@dataprosconsulting.com would be a good email if you want to reach out for any important, conversation pieces. What I'm going to be doing this next little bit is getting Forseti out to the people that need it. And we're targeting payment merchants, so that way we can make sure that our product is in the SMB space. We want to make sure that it is affordable for a lot of people, and that's a great way that we found to do that. So, yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. All right. Well, I know we're over time. So guys, how about a big round of applause, Damon, for our wonderful panelist today.
Thank you.
This was just a
awesome,
phenomenal jam session.
Yep.
Our wonderful hosts.
And again, like if you, Damon, do your thing, right? Go back and hit that rewind button. That slide was powerful, right?
Yeah. Yeah. If you got in this late, go back to the beginning and listen from the beginning, because they were dropping some incredible information about cybersecurity and some simple things you can do to protect your company and really help your organization stay safer. So it's just awesome stuff today, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this was a masterclass, Gina. Again, big our sending our heartfelt thank you to you for setting this up. Cam, thank you. Wonderful dad that you are. Samir, good luck. Best of luck with your 17-month-old.
Thanks, man.
You guys hang out with us for 1 second and crush it on Thursday, guys.
Yep.
Can't wait to hear how it goes with the women in manufacturing. We got Gina on the Twitter or X Manufacturing Hour at 2:00 Eastern time. So we will see you guys we're back here Friday. We'll see you guys soon. And rest of you guys hang out with us for 1 second, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Okay.